Hello everyone. In last video we have discussed different type of chemical reaction. At that time we discussed 4 important type of chemical reaction. So only one reaction is remaining, that is oxidation reduction reaction. So in this section here we have to discuss oxidation reduction reaction. We can define the oxidation reduction reaction in terms of oxygen and in terms of hydrogen also. So, from name itself, oxidation means it's the addition of oxygen. So, the definition is oxidation is a process of addition of oxygen, or in terms of hydrogen we can define it, it is the removal of hydrogen. Similarly, in the case of reduction from name itself it is clear that something is removed or something is reduced here. Here oxygen is reduced, so it is a removal of oxygen or addition of hydrogen. These are the generally used two ways of defining this oxidation reduction reaction. Let's explain this oxidation reduction reaction by using an example. Here we must take copper in a china dish. Before the experiment, the color of the copper you already know that it is white in color. Then it is heated in the presence of oxygen. After some time, a black coating is formed over the surface of the copper. That means a layer is produced during the reaction between the copper and the oxygen. So the corresponding equation can be represented as copper is reactive to oxygen to produce copper oxide. This copper oxide is also known as cupric oxide. That means the oxidation state of formed copper is 2 plus 2 oxidation state. So the formed product is copper 2 oxide or cupric oxide. So from the definition we know that what is oxidation reaction is the addition of the oxygen. So here also copper to the copper oxygen is added. So copper is oxidizes to cupric oxide. Okay. Again hydrogen gas is passed through this cupric oxide. So the corresponding reaction can be written as copper oxide plus hydrogen. In presence of heat it is again converted to copper and water is also to be produced. Then when we look this equation, here copper oxide is converted to copper. That means here the oxygen is removed. That is reduction will be take place. That is copper oxide is reduced to copper here in presence of heat, or it is addition of hydrogen. So this is an example of the oxidation and reduction reaction. Then again we have look into this equation copper oxide on reaction with hydrogen. Here copper oxide is reduced to copper. That means here oxygen is removed or hydrogen is added, that is reduction will be take place. And similarly when we look in the case of hydrogen, oxygen is added here, that is oxidation reaction. So H2 is converted to water. So here when we look this, the oxidation and reduction reaction can be take place simultaneously in this reaction. Such type of reaction is called a redox reaction. So it is an example of redox reaction. So what is redox reaction? Redox reaction means those reactions in which oxidation and reduction can be take place simultaneously. Then two important concepts in this section, that is oxidizing agent and reducing agent. Okay, then what is an oxidizing agent? The substance either gives oxygen or removes hydrogen during an oxidation reaction that we call oxidizing agent. So the first equation, it is an example of oxidation reaction. The substance which gives oxygen or removes hydrogen from this equation. So here oxygen is that substance. So this is the oxidizing agent in this equation. Okay, so when we look this redox reaction, the substance which gives oxygen. So here copper oxide gives oxygen. So copper oxide will be act as the oxidizing agent. Then here the substance which removes oxygen or adding hydrogen during the redox reaction that we call the reducing agent. So in this equation H2 will be act as a reducing agent. So these are oxidizing agent and reducing agent in the redox reaction. In a simple manner, we can define what is oxidizing agent and reducing agent. Oxidizing agent are the substances which undergo reduction. So in this equation, copper oxide undergo reduction. So copper oxide acts as an oxidizing agent in this redox reaction. Similarly, hydrogen undergo oxidation. So it will be act as a reducing agent in this equation. A few more examples of oxidation reduction reactions are listed below. The first one, the reaction of zinc oxide with carbon. We know that carbon is also known as coke. It is generally act as a reducing agent. So in this equation, zinc oxide react with carbon to produce corresponding zinc and carbon monoxide. So here, from zinc oxide, the oxygen is removed and to form zinc. That means zinc oxide undergo reduction to produce zinc. So here, carbon, oxygen is added and to produce carbon monoxide. So carbon undergo oxidation. So zinc oxide will be act as a oxidizing agent here. That means this is the substance that undergo reduction here. So carbon acts as a reducing agent because it undergoes oxidation. Then the second example, the reaction of manganese dioxide with hydrochloric acid. When manganese dioxide reacts with hydrochloric acid, produce corresponding manganese chloride, chlorine and water. Here, from manganese dioxide, oxygen is removed and to form manganese chloride. From definition, we know that removal of oxygen is a reduction reaction. So, it is an example of reduction. Okay, here from HCl or hydrochloric acid, oxygen is added and to produce H2O is formed, or hydrogen is removed and to produce water. That means this equation represents oxidation reaction. So here MnO2 acts as a oxidizing agent and hydrochloric acid will be act as a reducing agent. Then the third example, reaction of ferric oxide with aluminium to produce iron and aluminium oxide. So in this equation, from ferric oxide, this oxygen is removed and to produce iron. So it is an example of reduction reaction, and to the aluminium, oxygen is added and to produce aluminium oxide. So oxidation will be take place. Similar case in the above equation. Here Fe2O3 will be act as a oxidizing agent and aluminium will be act as a reducing agent. The all reaction that is listed here are examples of oxidation reduction reaction. So why this oxidation and reduction is important? What are the important application of this oxidation and reduction reaction in our daily life? Effects of oxidation reaction. The first one is corrosion. So what is corrosion? It is the gradual degradation of metal by the action of air, water and any other chemical substances. Which means the surface of the metal can be corroded by the action of air, water or in the presence of some chemical substances. That process is called corrosion, and this corrosion is usually take place in the case of the metal surfaces. For example, in the case of silver, it is corroded and to produce a black colored layer on the surface of the silver. Similarly, this effect is also observed in the case of copper also. When copper is exposed to air, some green colored layer is observed on the surface of the copper, which means that here copper is corroded. So the corrosion is mostly observed in the case of the metal iron. The corrosion of iron is known as the rusting of the iron. When we look how the rusting will be take place. So what is rust? Then iron on rusting means it is reacted, corroded in the presence of moist air. So here iron react with oxygen and water to produce hydrated ferric oxide. This hydrated ferric oxide is chemically known as rust, which is brown in color. So the corrosion of this process is called rusting of the iron. So the rusting of the iron which has made large amount of harmful effect in our daily life. We know that the food material containing large amount of oils and fat. When this undergo oxidation, it will be result into a bad smelling compound. That means this process is called rancidity. So how we can prevent the rancidity? There are different measures used to prevent the process of rancidity. The first one, we can pack the food material into airtight containers. And second one, that is refrigeration. The third one, we can use antioxidant, which means here it is anti means against. We can use the substances which prevent the oxidation that we called antioxidant. So these are the three measures that we can use to prevent the process rancidity. Here we completed 5 important types of chemical reaction. We also discussed the effect of oxidation reaction in our daily life. I hope you understand. Thank you for watching me.